as we continue to look ahead at what the possibilities are for the Buffalo Bills as far as the 2019 NFL roster, we have to take a look now at the linebacker position. Welcome to Believers Talk. My name is Joe. Welcome to another roster breakdown edition of Believers Talk, where we break down the current 90-man Buffalo Bills roster and try to figure out exactly who's going to make that 53-man roster. Remember, we have to have this team to 53 guys by the end of preseason, August 31st at 4 p.m. So we're looking forward to seeing who will make that 53-man roster. Today we're going to talk about the linebackers, who's currently on the linebacking squad and who we think is going to make it to that 53-man roster. Before we do that, however, I remind everyone, if you haven't already, hit that subscribe button, guys. Be sure to hit that subscribe button as we keep you covered on all Buffalo Bills content. We also try to keep you updated on the Sabres, Buffalo Bulls, and all Buffalo sports as well. So hit that subscribe button, like this video in the description below. Follow me on Twitter. I try to keep you updated there as well. So the Buffalo Bills linebacking core is what we're going to talk about today. So again, if you haven't already, when you listen to this video, leave a comment below as well. Let me know what you think of the Buffalo Bills linebackers. I'm not gonna lie, guys, some of these are a little bit easier than others. Again, we know pretty much the main guys at the linebacker position, so this position is not as hard as some of the others were. In 2018, I will say we kept 5 linebackers, 2 inside, 3 outside linebackers. We kept Alexander, Edmonds, Stanford, Milano, and Lacey. A lot of these guys are going to look familiar going into the 2019 NFL season. What I'm going to do in this episode, I'm going to go down the list of tight ends, and I'm going to talk about the 5 that I think are going to make it onto the 2019 NFL roster. Maybe the guys who I had like close, so we could see who might be one ahead or one below or something like that. But I'm going to go down this list. I think we currently have 11 linebackers on our 90-man roster, and again, I think we're going to cut that down to 5, just like in 2018, before the start of the 2019 NFL season. So let's go down this list. We're going to start with the inside linebackers, or the middle linebackers, if you will. We have Tremaine Edmonds, Boshan Joseph, who was a draft pick this year, Corey Thompson, and Juwan Foggy, and Tyrell Dodson. So those are the 5 guys that we currently have listed as our inside linebackers to start the 2019 NFL season. Now, if you go to the outside linebackers, there's a few more names. It gets a little more confusing when you talk about the outside linebackers on who is going to make the 2019 Buffalo Bills roster. You got Lorenzo Alexander, Julian Stanford, Eli Harold, Matt Milano, Dion Lacey, and then Daryl Johnson. So I do want to talk about a few of these guys. Again, I don't want to sit here and talk about all of them. I just think that would take too much time. But if I skip over one and you want to hear more information about him, let me know in the comment section below. Like I said, I'd happily go over all of them with you. But again, I just want, for time restraint reasons, I want to kind of stick this to the bare necessities. So Tremaine Edmonds obviously is going to be the #1 guy, right? Drafted Tremaine Edmonds last year in the first round. Would actually be due more money, and a lot more money, if he was cut compared to if he stays on this team. This year he's going to make $2.8 million. If we were to cut him, that would equal $10.3 million in dead cap money. In 2018, he was 16th in the NFL and led the team in tackles with 121. And I think he was second among rookies as well. I'm not sure about that. Someone can fact check me there. 121 tackles, 2 interceptions, 2 forced fumbles, 2 sacks. And guys, this was his rookie season. Not only that, only 20, soon to be 21, I believe, years old. So he'll be 21 to start the 2019 NFL season. But he is a young man, one of the youngest men to be drafted in the NFL draft. I mean, this just speaks volumes as far as what's to come for our future. Now, you do have to wonder, obviously, if he keeps this production, we'll sign that 5th-year option. But by the 5th-year option, he's still going to be 24 years old. He'll just be hitting his prime. But we'll worry about that in the future. That's at least 4 years away still. So we have plenty of time to worry about that. Well, at least 3 years away, but probably 4 years away. So we have plenty of time to worry about that. Of course, Tremaine Edmonds went to Virginia Tech in college, and then, like I said, the Bills drafted him in the first round, the second first-round pick. Remember, we signed Josh Allen, and kind of worked out for us in the draft to pick up Tremaine Edmonds. And yeah, Tremaine Edmonds was just a monster last season. I expect the same from him this season. You go down this list, you have Vosean Joseph. Like I said, Vosean Joseph was a 5th-round draft pick. A lot of people, including myself, calling him the biggest steal for the Buffalo Bills in their draft. And I truly believe that Vosean Joseph did make $575,000 a season. I think he will make the team from Florida. And like I said, just a really, really great steal here. I did do a draft recap on Vosean Joseph. I'll put that link in here somewhere as well. So if you guys haven't seen that, be sure to check that out, because we covered every single draft pick, guys. We covered every single free agent signing. So again, if you haven't hit that subscribe button, guys, hit that subscribe button, because we have you covered throughout all Buffalo sports. We cover every single free agent signing, every single draft pick. We had you covered the OTAs, mandatory main camp. We're going to have you covered come training camp as well. So Vosean Joseph would be my number 2 inside linebacker. But like I said, last year we only had 2 inside linebackers, so I expect to see much of the same this season, barring injury, of course. And if you look down at the outside linebackers, one of the guys I have us keeping could play both inside and outside linebacker. That's very important. Again, we know how much both Brandon Beane and Sean McDermott like the versatility of a player, not only to play inside and outside linebacker, but you're talking about that special teams position as well, right? Talking about special teams, you can't forget about special teams. We know how much of a killer special teams can be. This is a 3-part game. You talk about offense, defense, and special teams. So we need those guys who can step up and play in special teams. And that's probably where Vosean Joseph will get much of his starting time or playing time to begin the season. I expect to see Tremaine Edmunds on the field for most snaps, again, barring injury, of course. And then you wonder what happens to Vosean Joseph. Might be moved down the inside a little bit, but mostly probably be a special teams guy. You look at down this list, you have Corey Thompson, was an undrafted free agent in April of 2018, signed to the practice squad last season, did end up playing in 6 games last season, did record a tackle for us, but with the drafting of Vosean Joseph, I think that means that he will be left out. We also did sign 2 undrafted free agents at the inside linebacker position, both Juwan Foggy and Terrell Dotson. This does tell me that we're open to discussion. We're open to debate as far as who's going to be that second inside linebacker. If we sign 2 undrafted free agents at a position, you do have to think, hey, maybe we are willing to look somewhere else, and not at Vosean Joseph. Again, a 5th-round draft pick. We can move him to the practice squad for a season and maybe move in one of these guys, but we can also do that with 2 of these undrafted guys as well. So we'll see what happens. Again, remember, the Buffalo Bills, as well as every team in the AFC East, lucky enough to have 11 guys that they can put on their practice squad. Of course, one is going to be that rugby player whose name I forget, the running back, who someone will remind me in the comment section below, I'm sure. But that gives us that extra guy more room to play with a little bit when it comes to these guys. Maybe we have 2 linebackers on the practice squad. We move to the outside linebacker, and again, like I said, this is where things get a little tricky, right? It's easy, Tremaine Edmunds is going to be there. But as far as outside linebacker, we know some of the names, but we don't know all of them. So again, let me talk to you about the 2 guys who I think are shoo-ins, right? Guys who I know are going to make the Buffalo Bills 53-man roster. Of course, I talk about Lorenzo Alexander and Matt Milano. Lorenzo Alexander due to make $3.75 million this year. 1.6 would be towards the dead cap if we did not sign him, if he was cut. But we did just sign him to that extension, so for that extra year. So I expect to see him on the team. 13 years in the league, was an undrafted free agent in 2005 when he was signed by the Carolina Panthers. This will be his 4th season with the Buffalo Bills. In 2018, in 8 starts, he had 2 interceptions, 9 pass deflections, 74 tackles. 11 of those tackles were for loss. And guys, for a guy who's been in the league 13 years, you would think he'd start winding down. No, all those numbers I just said. Again, I'm saying 2 interceptions, 9 pass deflections, 74 tackles, 11 tackles for a loss. All of those are career highs for him. So good to see even later in his career still stepping up to the plate, right, and playing hard. He had a great productive year last season. Look forward to seeing a lot of the same this coming season as well. Also had 6.5 sacks, not too shabby at all. I think that was 2nd on the team behind Jerry Hughes as well. So not too shabby at all. I look forward to seeing what he can do in 2019. Needs to maybe step up as far as the leadership role too. You talk about Kyle Williams being retired. This is the type of guy who could step up and be a leader. We see him on his Twitter account, making a lot of claims, doing a lot of things on there. I want to know he's doing that behind the scenes as well in the locker room, letting these young guys know, hey, this is how you do it. As I go down this linebacker list, not only Corey Thompson, Juwan Foggy, and Dotson, there's a couple more unrestricted free agents draft picks that we signed or that we drafted that would be, would love the tutelage of a guy like Lorenzo Alexander. Then you talk about Matt Milano. Matt Milano was drafted in 2017 from Boston College. Drafted him in the 5th round. Again, you talk about 5th round steals earlier with Foshawn Joseph. You're talking about a big one here, Matt Milano. Maybe that's why I like the sound of a 5th round pick right now in Buffalo. Just a great pick, Matt Milano. Again, drew $710,000 this year. So you want to talk about steal and you want to talk about cheap for his production. You're talking about Matt Milano. Matt Milano, did suffer that broken fibula towards the end of last season. I think it was week 14. Suffered a broken fibula, so was put on the IR. Prior to that, however, he did play in he did start all 13 games. 78 tackles, 12 of those tackles for loss, 3 interceptions, 7 pass deflections. So good numbers for the first 13 weeks of the season. Look forward to having him back. We heard in OTAs and mandatory minicamp, he's actually sounding better. He seems like he's getting better than what was projected as far as how far the injury would take to heal. So sounds like he's ahead of schedule. Awesome to hear. Sounds like he's being productive both in OTAs and mandatory minicamp. So again, great to hear. Look forward to seeing him at the start of the 2019 season. And then you talk about some of these other guys, a lot of young guys on here, and you wonder which one of these guys would be that third outside linebacker, if you will. If we only keep 3, there is a possibility of keeping 4. Let me know what you think in the comment section below. Like I said, in 2018 we kept 5. I'm just going with that formula again. Again, we did keep an extra wide receiver. We took out an extra defensive end, I believe it was, so in my last videos, but in this case I think we're going to stick to the 5. But let me go through the names again. We got Julian Stanford, played with us last year for a little bit. Eli Harold, Dion Lacey, and Daryl Johnson. Daryl Johnson, of course, we picked him up, 7th round draft pick by the Buffalo Bills from North Carolina A&T. So you talk about him. Dion Lacey was an undrafted free agent in 2013, picked up by the Dallas Cowboys. Dallas then dropped him in 2013, released him, and then he played in the CFL for the Edmonton Eskimos for a little bit. And he played special teams, which again, huge to be able to play special teams, especially if you're going to be a rotational player when it comes to the defensive side of the ball. Also played linebacker, signed with Miami in 2017. 2 of the teams I pretty much hate the most, Dallas and Miami, so not a great start for you. But then he also was released by Miami later in 2017, waived by them. Then the Buffalo Bills pick him up. So you got Dion Lacey, and then you got Eli Harold, would be due to make $735K this year. Played 13 games, had 4 sacks and 10 tackles in 2018. I think it was with the Detroit Lions. Correct me if I'm wrong. Went to college at Virginia. Was drafted in the 3rd round in 2015. Really like Eli Harold. Again, 4 sacks last season in the 13 games played. Had no starts, 10 tackles. So then go Julian Stanford. Out of the guys I just named, minus Lorenzo Alexander, Matt Milano, Julian Stanford will be due to make the most money. As far as salary cap goes, you took up looking at $1.5 million this season. $175,000 of that would be dead cap money, though. So you're not talking about a lot of dead cap money, and that's what we're really worried about here when we talk about waiving or cutting players. You will worry about the dead cap money. And $175,000, really not all that much. The good news about Julian Stanford is he can play inside or outside linebacker for the Buffalo Bills. Did play some special teams as well. In 2018, played in 13 games. One of those was a start, 15 tackles, and a sack. So when I look at these guys, again, Julian Stanford, Eli Harold, Dion Lacey, Daryl Johnson, those 4 guys, I say we have 1 roster spot. I think it's between 2 guys, right? I think it's between Julian Stanford, who again is due to make $1.5 million if we keep him, and Eli Harold. I think you look at 4 sacks and 13 games played, no starts. You have to look at that number and say that's pretty impressive. So those are the 2 guys I think it's between as far as that 5th and final linebacker spot. Let me know in the comment section what you think below. Who do you think is the 5th guy? The guys I named. Maybe it's Corey Thompson, Foggy, or Dotson up in the inside linebacker position. But I think it's really between Julian Stanford, Eli Harold for that last spot. But it could be Dion Lacey and Daryl Johnson. Let me know what you think. If you're going to twist my arm, make me pick one right here, which is what it's all about when you talk about the 53-man roster. I am going to pick Julian Stanford just because of the versatility, just because of how he knows the Buffalo Bills system playing here last season, and because of his work on special teams as as well. So you put all that into consideration, and I think Julian Stanford would be our 5th guy. But I wouldn't be surprised to see Eli Harold go ahead and take that mantle and take the 5th spot. Be a nice rotational player. Again, you're talking about a guy who can get to the quarterback from the linebacker position, play some special teams as well. Not a bad play there. So I think it's between one of those two guys. Let me know what you think in the comment section below. Who do you think is going to be the Buffalo Bills linebackers? Who is going to make that 53-man roster? I thank you for joining me on this episode, this linebacker edition. Again, we will keep you covered. I will continue to do this series, have the defensive backs to come next, and then we talk about special teams as well. So you want to make sure to stay tuned, hit that subscribe button, like this video, and again, let me know what you think in the comment section below. I will talk to you all soon. Until I do, go Bills.